Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Words of Heart. In today's episode, we have the privilege of speaking with Sabrina Osso of the organization Osso Safe. Thank you for joining me today, Sabrina.
Thank you, Dion. A pleasure to be with you.
Awesome. So, Sabrina, if you could tell my listeners a bit about yourself and your organization, that would be great.
Sure. Again, thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. My name is Sabrina Osso from Osso Safe. Feel safe where you live, work, and play. I am a speaker and consultant on promoting safety and preventing violence in the workplace, schools, and in particular in your place of residence. We are not a charity or a nonprofit. We have a very different perspective on the whole subject of violence, safety, anti-abuse, and I will talk about it as the interview progresses. But we have a very different perspective, if you will. I am a TEDx speaker, and we combine education and technology to promote safety and prevent violence. So that's basically me in a nutshell. The company actually started as a one-woman show that I wrote, choreographed, and performed because I am a dancer. And the name of the show is Home Sweet Home. And I play different women being abused. She goes to her good place. That's where the dancing comes in. But then she's pulled back into the terror of violence, of abuse. But the show ends really strong, really empowering. And I did a lot of research for the show, and I could not believe the statistics I was finding. Like, not only, I am a victim of violence, or I should say a survivor. My father beat my mother on a regular basis. I knew my suffering, but I didn't realize how many others are suffering. So I said to myself, I have to make this into a business with bona fide products and services to really make an impact in people's lives, whether they're going through violence or not. So that's how Osso Safe was born, really. So that's me in a nutshell, Dion.
Well, I truly admire you for starting up this organization because I think we don't have much knowledge as to the abuse that we have to go through in our homes or even in the workplace in general. We're so afraid to speak up because of authority, and we don't want to get fired, or we don't want to be classified as being over dramatic or oversensitive simply because we're a female or a male in general. I'm sure it can work both ways as far
Yes.
as that spectrum goes. Considering the pandemic right now, since unfortunately we're still in it, but we are really conducive to our households, which I feel can be problematic for those in possibly toxic relationships or toxic environments. How has your organization helped with that going on right now with the pandemic?
Yes. COVID, I think I read a statistic about at this time last year, or maybe about 9 months ago, that COVID has spiked all over. Domestic violence, home violence has spiked because of COVID all over the globe. It doesn't matter where you are. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think it has increased, like even the calls coming in to shelters and 800 numbers, 80%, 85%, I believe. So it's really alarming. I continue to do these podcasts to get the word out, to really, like I said, we have a different perspective. And I think people are beginning to understand that homes, the focus has to be in residency. We cannot go on anymore where we hold a bucket and wait for donations to drop in that bucket to help victims. And the victims, I'm glad you pointed out, it could be female or male. 1 out of 3 women will be beaten or raped in a lifetime. 1 out of 3 young people will be in an abusive relationship. 1 out of 7 men is abused. By the end of today, 4 women will be killed by their abusive partners, and most of them will be killed after they leave their abusers. 15 million children witness violence in their own homes each and every year. I could go on and on with statistics, but those are just the ones that are documented, mind you. So we haven't been doing as many presentations because COVID has suspended that, if you will, in person presentations, obviously, speaking engagements, seminars, and workshops. So I've been doing more podcasts, radio, and just virtual speaking engagements as much as possible. And we feel that the more we convey to the public that the concentration has to be in residency, where we make residency safe. We have something, if I may explain it, we have something called the Osso Safe Home Sweet Home package. And we are introducing this into the landlord tenant portion of the industry, of the real estate industry. We want this to propagate over all residency, but we're concentrating on landlord tenant because that's the path of least resistance right now. What does that mean? The Osso Safe Home Sweet Home package consists of a policy, a seminar, an app, and assigned therapists to the building. So this means we're saying, Mr. and Mrs. Landlord, hire us. We will go into your building. We will have everyone sign a policy. And in this policy, it's a copywritten policy that I designed. It's an addendum to existing leases. And it says basically, I, as a landlord, I promise to provide you a safe space for you to live. You, in turn, as my tenant, you promise to not act in any way, shape, or form abusively. Otherwise, you, the abuser only, gets immediately evicted from the premises. And we go into full knowledge knowing that that would be the consequences. The advantages of that for a landlord is that you maintain property reputation, you mitigate liability, your vacancy rates will drop, and your tenants feel safe. And then the rest of the family unit gets to stay, provided that they could still pay the rent or the mortgage. That's the policy. Then we have a seminar and it's part of the package. We go in and we teach all tenants, new and existing, on facts, statistics, warning signs, definitions of abuse, the difference between abuse and discipline, just to name a few items. So that way everybody's educated on on how to promote safety and prevent violence in their units, in their place of residence. Then we have an app. This is the technology portion of it. This app, it will detect violent-like movements and captures them in real time, issuing alerts. And it gives you a 30-second video of the actual violent-like movement. It's being updated right now, actually, but let's say a landlord has 10 units. The app is installed. Oh, wow. I just got an alert in my unit 2 and in my unit 10. I just saw he beat the crap out of her, or she just beat the crap out of the kids. That's grounds for eviction. We don't do that here at an Osso Safe certified property. You are held to a higher regard, a higher standard. That's the app. And then we have assigned therapists to the building that require all tenants to check in with their therapist once a month. Hello, is everything okay? Do you feel like anything is looming? Maybe your daughter just told you, Ma, Dad, I'm pregnant. What are you going to do? Are you going to beat the crap out of her? No. You are better than that because you got educated. You signed the policy. You're going to work it out with the therapist. Your son comes home. He says that he's gay. You're going to beat him up or verbally disparage him? No. You are going to work it out with the therapist. You are going to practice safety, practice nonviolence. So there's more to it, but just to condense it, those are the components of the Osso Safe Home Sweet Home package. And that gets your property Osso Safe certified. And then we put our logo, which is behind me, outside of the building. And this says to on driving traffic and pedestrian traffic, oh, I know what that logo means. That means it is safe. They practice safety. They're educated how to be nonviolent. And if anything happens that is violent, there's mechanisms in place that are executed, that are implemented. This makes for better residency all around. And we're looking to do this one property at a time. Like I said, right now we're starting with landlords and tenants. So to answer your question with COVID, this is what we are introducing into the real estate industry. Because now more than ever, people are working from home, they're learning from home. You know, the kids are at home doing virtual or a hybrid. And then home is home. Your home should be your sanctuary, not a war zone. It should be you should feel safe in there and not scared. So so all of these components together, we're trying to change the face of residency, where now it's a required standard condition of residency that you're nonviolent, that you practice safety, that you are non-chaotic, there's no dysfunction. I hope I answered your question, Dion.
You answered my question beautifully, and I truly admire you, your plan as far as implementing, I hope I'm not mispronouncing this, your organization Osso Safe into particular home related properties, because our home is our sanctuary and it shouldn't be a war zone. We should all feel safe in that respect. So I truly admire you for finding ways to implement it, and not just with licensed therapists on the property, but like through technology, because technology, as much as some people try to dismiss it sometimes, it is a fundamental factor into our evolving world. So if there's a way to utilize that particular aspect to enable like a safety warning of some sort, then that just is remarkable to be able to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. I mean, as we say, we combine education and technology. One reinforces the other. You have the education where the people in the structure are educated, and then you have the technology to pick it up, to enforce that education, and vice versa. It will eliminate the he said, she said factor. I know if I had my own products that I'm introducing growing up, my reality as a child would have been much different. My father would not have gotten away with half the things he got away with. And we're saying, look, school or university, hire us. We will get your school and university Osso Safe certified, because at school, they're dealing with problematic children, right? Where they have tantrums, they act out. The thing is, I would say 7, 8, 9 times out of 10, that child is acting out and having a tantrum because home is hell, because it's 1 or 2 parents that are abusive. So the child is reacting, doesn't know how to process it. They're getting abused either verbally, physically, or sexually, or a combination of all 3. How is that child supposed to be expected to perform well at school when they're being beat up or verbally disparaged or sexually abused, and yet they go to school and they're expected to get good grades, be involved in social activities, stay quiet when they're supposed to stay quiet, be social when they're supposed to be social. It's impossible. And I've always had this feeling, Dion, like I said, I respect all of the nonprofits and charities, but I feel like to a certain degree, they keep the problem in place, because we're looking at it like this. You are focusing on the abuse. We're focusing on the safety, preventative. Let's prevent it. Let's get it diminished and then eventually prevented, one residence at a time, because the kids suffer the most. And I could tell you from personal experience, whoo, my father beating my mother, and cops would show up, and I had no one to go to, really. No one. And family knew, the neighbors certainly knew. It's you're so alone. And like, even with COVID, I say, like people say, oh, well, the kids can go to the parents to get help, and go to a close family friend or the parents or a family member. But when you live in that type of environment, I could tell you from personal experience, you're alone. You can't go to your parents. How can you go to your parents if your parents are the enemy? They're the ones that are being abusive. You can't go to them for support. Like with COVID, there is a spike in suicide or attempted suicide in children, teens, young adults. And yes, I, excuse me, I understand. However, in a household where there's love and nurturing and patience and no violence, no abuse, the kids can handle COVID. I hope I make sense. Like, there's a support system there, the mom and the dad, or even if you're a single parent, as long as there's no abuse, no chaos, no violence, no dysfunction, and you reassure your kid, little Sally, little Timmy, everything is going to be okay. Just because there's COVID, it doesn't mean that we're going to die. We're safe. We wash our hands. We're gonna do extra hugging. We're going to social distance. We're going to talk to grandma and grandpa on the phone. We're going to FaceTime. We're going to do schoolwork. Like, all of these mechanisms are in place in a home that's safe. But in a home that isn't, it was already bad pre-COVID. So now with COVID, it's even worse, right? Because abusive parents, they don't handle these situations well. So it's like hell on top of hell, if you will, for the children. It's even worse. And I think it's those children that attempt suicide. And I'm not saying in every case, please don't misunderstand me, but I feel like we're kind of misinterpreting the severity of the problem. In a home that is intact, they're handling it. It's the homes that have violence, abuse, chaos, dysfunction. So of course, with COVID, it's even more escalated. The anxiety, the depression, the tendency to self-harm. And then students can't see their friends, which is understandable. And we're saying, look, this has to be a practice. We have to practice nonviolence, non-abuse. It's not just one and done. So this is what we encourage in residency, in schools, and in the workplace. It has to be ingrained in our brain that this is a practice, how to practice discipline versus abuse with your children, how to practice punching pillows instead of punching each other, not demeaning anyone, not being verbally disparaging to anyone. I'm sorry, Dion, I think we went off on a tangent a little bit, but I hope I answered your question. Bring me back at any point, because I just, woo.
No, you're doing just fine. I don't see it as a tangent. I'm being emotionally affected as you're speaking, because it's so profound, and it truly is important. And I don't think it's talked about enough. I mean, plenty of topics are discussed, whether it's sexual harassment or politics, which we're not going to get into that. But I think people truly don't understand the magnitude of the fact that non-violence, I'm like mixing up my words here, violence of any kind can truly happen anywhere, especially in a place you find the most safety, which is your home. So
Right, right. And I like to say, in fact, I'm doing a virtual, I'm doing my workshop, the Osso Safe workshop, and this is things that I mentioned. I explain like how not to be violent. It's going to be in East Ramapo School in New Jersey on not this Thursday, a week from tomorrow. It's going to be a virtual school, a virtual Zoom. I'm doing the Osso Safe homes. I'm sorry, the Osso Safe workshop, and there's going to be teachers there, students, parents, and other people, I believe. And we say home violence is the big umbrella, the big umbrella. Under that is verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, harassment, bullying, sex trafficking, school violence, workplace violence, cyberbullying. If you think about it, all of those start in the home. The root of it is in some type of residence. You could do great with your kid, raise your child right, do your job as a parent, boy or girl. You send them off to school. If they're sitting next to a Nicholas Cruz, for example, the shooter from Parkland, Florida, the shooter who shot up all those the students and teachers at I think it was 2018 on February 14th. If your child is sitting next to him or someone like him or her for that matter, it's not enough that you did your job, because Nicholas's parents didn't do their job. He's violent. He's an abuser. He is a problematic child. And that started when he was young. He shot up that school at 19, if I'm not mistaken. That needed to be resolved when he was 4 or 5 years old. And it could have been, and this is what we're saying at Osso Safe, get us in there. This education and adapting the technology and getting everyone educated has to start now. It has to start now, because the sooner you start, the less likely these kids are going to become future victims or future abusers in their own relationships, because you need to break the cycle. And if you don't go get help, and you don't know how to break the cycle, and you think that, well, dad beat up mom all the time, or mom beat up dad all the time, you're going to think that's normal. You're going to think that that's okay. And then you're going to perpetuate that in your own relationships. So it has to be taught from a very young age. Just because you're a boy, in order to become a man, you don't dominate any girls. Just because you're a girl, in order to become a woman, don't be submissive, and vice versa. Something that I want to mention I mean, unless you want to ask me, but pornography is a big driver of violence. Big. Pornography is 88.2% physical aggression towards women. And a lot of people think, oh, pornography is sexual freedom. I'm here to tell you, and I've been saying this repeatedly in more and more interviews, it is the opposite of sexual freedom. We are all for sexual freedom at Osso Safe. Absolutely. You want to turn your house into a jungle and dress up, be like monkeys and have wonderful orgasms, and that's great. We're not talking about that. We're talking about pornography where it's aligned with child trafficking, sex trafficking, child rape, prostitution, um, it's it's all under the same umbrella, if you will. So we need to not give pornographic materials to our sons, our grandsons, our nephews, our any male in our families, because you are teaching them essentially how to be hostile towards girls when they start dating. So, and there is another portion of this, of pornography, that has come to my attention fairly recently. And I'm making a point to say this in public and to really educate. Um, Pornography, there's males, right? Males that do the the violence in a sexual context, sexual violence in pornography. Again, I want to repeat, we're not talking about sexual freedom. We're not talking about erotica where there's consent. And in pornography, it may look like consent, but someone's getting raped, someone's getting sexually assaulted, someone's being forced to do things that they don't want to do. There is a portion of pornography called a financial dominatrix. She is the female abuser in the equation, the female sex abuser. What's more disturbing is that this is legal and it is consensual. And essentially a financial dominatrix is really a paid sex abuser. She does unspeakable, disturbing, convulsing, revolting things on and off camera. And these women infiltrate in our societies, Dion, in our communities. They pose as upstanding citizens. Meanwhile, they do these things at home and they make a lot of money. And it's virtual as well as in person. And they could be part of our PTA. And for them it's an arousal, because it's almost like a me monster complex, like, oh, I'm a financial dominatrix, but I'm in this upper middle class neighborhood and no one's suspecting anything. Meanwhile, I'm part of the PTA. It's extremely disturbing, and they date and or marry guys that are submissive, and they could have children of their own. So in the household, these are people that she gets to dominate on and off camera. And I want to make it a point to let people know, because I was a heavy duty clubber in New York City. My favorite music is techno. So I knew about that, obviously, the financial dominatrix. It was very, tongue in cheek. What's the expression? Like, oh, you pay for sex, or, but like I said, it has come to my attention that it's extremely detrimental. And these women are dangerous, manipulative, dominating individuals, and they will stop at nothing to get what they want. They are abusers. It's just what I said. And once the camera comes off, stops recording, they're still abusive. So yes, men abuse, but also women. So I'm glad I designed my company where I never designed it where, and I am pro victim. I am pro. I shouldn't say that. That's the wrong phrase. But I think you know what I mean. I'm trying to help the people that need it the most, and actually, those people are children, really. But whoever is a victim, it doesn't matter the gender that the hand occupies, male or female. It's still bad, whether the male is abusing or the female. It's horrible either way. So thank you for letting me explain this, because I think these financial dominatrixes slip under the radar and they have the law on their side. And we need to change that and make this illegal, because, like I said, they are dangerous and they will stop at nothing to get what they want. And I'm going to be more and more vocal about this. Um, it's just absolutely disturbing. And in fact, in early December, there was the New York Times did an investigation of Pornhub, and they found, I think the exact word was infested. The website was infested with child rape, child sex trafficking ads. So, 3 credit cards, Discover, MasterCard, and Visa, if I'm not mistaken, they said, you know what? We don't want our credit card to be used for this. So they stopped all payments of Pornhub for these, for anyone downloading porn or engaging in porn. And I commend all 3 credit cards. I haven't read up on the update of that investigation, but I'm glad that happened, because it's making a statement to the pornography world. And like I said, it's not about sexual freedom. It's making a statement that you're actually feeding the monster of sex trafficking, child sex trafficking, pornography, prostitution, financial dominatrix. Like I said, the more appropriate title should be a paid sex abuser. And in schools, sex trafficking is happening in schools and universities, where male students, are handing off their girlfriends to their friends. It's very disturbing. And a lot of it is fueled by how you're raised at home and the pornography that is given to these boys, thinking, yeah, it's okay. I'm just exercising my sexual drive, or so thank you for letting me say that, because it's important to kind of connect all the dots.
No problem. And I love that you share that, because I had no knowledge of that whatsoever. I mean, I know there's pornography, and unfortunately that's a part of our world, but I had no idea the seedy underbelly of it and the toxicity of it as much as you expressed it. So truly, thank you. So I have more knowledge of it now, and I'm pretty sure my listeners will take to heart what you just said, because it's truly touched me and how disturbing it is.
Yes. I mean, and please don't misunderstand me. We
No,
at Osso Safe, we're very positive. We're very encouraging. We're not saying, oh, oh gosh, this is horrible, this is never going to get resolved. No, especially with what we're doing with residency, and the Osso Safe Home Sweet Home package and the certification. I think this will really catch on. The more that time passes and the more I talk about it, and um and we have to talk about violence, we have to talk about abuse, but we have to talk about solutions. And I do, as much as possible, so that way people are encouraged, people are empowered, and people want to jump on the bandwagon and say, yeah, come get our building Osso Safe certified. This is great. We didn't even know that such a service existed. And I can say, over time, sooner than later, home violence will diminish and eventually be prevented. People won't tolerate it anymore. And and this is from a business standpoint. It's not like, forget about the law, because the law, I have to say, they make matters worse. They make matters worse, especially for the abused child. And I say this in my TEDx talk. From the lawyers to the mediators, the child protective service agencies, the schools to a certain degree, and ultimately the judges, they make matters so much worse for the abused child. It's just, and I always consult with a small team of lawyers for my company. And the one of the attorneys, her specialty is divorce, especially family violence. And when I introduced to her the Osso Safe certification and the package, she said, "Wow, Sabrina, you're short circuiting the whole thing." And she said this in a good way, because if you get your property Osso Safe certified, what do you need an expensive lawyer for? What do you need the Child Protective Service Agency for? What do you need to go to a judge for? It's all handled, nipped in the bud in residency, period, over and out. So, and that's how it should be, really. That's how it should be. I inform myself of with children's books, and I'm actually in the middle of writing one. I'm just trying to get I'm trying to put all the components together. And I go to the children's book section at Barnes and Nobles, and a lot of the books there are positivity and encouraging your child, and what to do if your child has a panic attack, and moms and dads for kids. That's all great. It's all great. However, the kids that need those books the most, they're not going to see them, because the abusive parent is not going to show it to them. No abusive parent wants their child, how do I say, they say they love their child, and they say that they care, and that, but if you cared, if you loved your child, you would be disciplining them, not abusing them. You wouldn't be smacking them. You wouldn't be calling them ungrateful, and you're a brat, you're a monster, you're nothing, you're a failure. You wouldn't be kicking them and punishing them. So those books need to reach the abused kids. And I feel like with what we're doing with Osso Safe and the certification and the package, now we're making this a required standard condition of residency. This will reach the ones that need it the most, the education, because abusive parents can't act the way they want to anymore. They can't get away with it anymore. And that's how it should be. So I thank you for your positive feedback, Dion. I thank you for the for the positive comments, and I'm hoping I'm shedding a different light on the whole subject.
You're shedding a perfect light for myself personally, and I'm sure many of my listeners who will be listening to this episode. And I'm not trying to misconstrued what your organization represents in any form, but I feel in order to understand safety, you have to know what it is you're specifically protecting. In order to know what you're protecting, you have to know the toxicity and the violence and everything it accompanies violence, which is, as you eloquently put it, human trafficking, pornography, abusive, child rape, middle school kids selling off their girlfriends. You said it is all under a specific umbrella that is abuse. So I very much admire you for touching on that and explaining that and what your organization is trying to do. You're trying to find a solution, and you're also trying to get the people who are involved some type of comfort, and also those like the abuser, just to not get confused with your points, but you're finding a solution to the issue. You're not just providing them safety, which is great, and I'm pretty sure organizations of all kinds do that, but you're not just solving one problem, you're trying to solve the myriad of problems that accompanies the actual issue.
Right. Yes, that's the goal. Thank you for picking up on that. Absolutely. Yes, because I thought long and hard about this when I was forming my company and how to organize it, um, and how to really develop products and services that will benefit everyone involved, and what I needed as a kid. I put myself in my own shoes, really, like what did I need? um like in the Osso Safe workshop, we're saying to teachers, get beyond the subject matter of what you're teaching. Say droplets in your classes where, let's say you teach calculus 1 or 2 or whatever. Okay, great, you're teaching calculus 1 or 2, which is in high school, right? Usually high school from 14 to 17, 18 years old. But go beyond that, because your students look to you as a role model, and say things like, okay, any of you that have dates this weekend, we're not going to rape, correct? We're not going to sexually assault anyone. You know what yes looks like, and you know what no looks like. um Say, if you need help, go to a therapist. You could come to me. I will listen to you. There's no bullying, right? Did anybody did anybody prevent a bullying situation from happening that wants to share this? And I say this to teachers: do this in your classes, maybe towards the end of class, because that way students, it'll speak volumes to students beyond the subject of calculus or biology or chemistry or language arts or phys ed, whatever it is. And the other thing that we say is, those of you that are nonviolent, non-abuse, that you have good homes, we're saying, thank goodness you're alive and that you exist. Don't think that you are not a part of this equation. You're instrumental in this equation of nonviolence and safety, because you're doing it. You are what every family, every individual should be: nonviolent, non-abusive, non-chaotic, non-dysfunctional. That should be the norm. Not, oh, when I put the key in my lock, I hope I don't get beat up tonight. Or as a kid, I hope dad doesn't come into my room and ask me to pull down my pants. That should not be your norm. The norm should be, I love my dad, he's so supportive, my mom. Even if you're divorced, it's fine as long as there's no abuse. So the people, the families that are proactive, that are positive, that are empowering, keep doing what you're doing. We need you. We need you. You're the example of what everyone needs to be, and you're setting the possibility, like, it can be done, and that's how it should be done. So I wanted to make a point to say that, because at Osso Safe, we educate everyone in residency, whether you're going through violence or not. We never ever single out anyone. Oh, you're an abuser, you're a victim. No, everyone gets educated the same. Everyone gets the same information, and then we make it interactive, where we say, okay, let's practice. I'm going to give you some scenarios and tell us what you would do. So that way it's put to practice. And do this in your workplace, do this at your kid's school, and certainly do this at home. So that way it really gets to be in your DNA, if you will, and in your psyche, like knowing the warning signs of someone who can be an abuser. You're dating someone, and all of a sudden he or she tells you, well, give me your money, I'll handle your money. Why don't you put both of us on that account? Meanwhile, you just met him or her. Or they change the way you dress. You liked to wear mini skirts, and you have a very well endowed chest, and you like wearing nice clothes, you're in fashion, all of a sudden there your whoever you're dating says to you, no, I want you for myself. It makes me very jealous when everybody looks at you. Why don't you just wear pants? And these are all signs, warning signs. In children, if their appetite changes, if they're not sleeping, if there's weight loss, if there's drastic weight gain, if they're very conscious of their bikini parts in a way that's inappropriate for their age group. These are all warning signs of stuff is going on. Inappropriate things are going on. So I just wanted to elaborate on your last comment, the positive feedback and everything, and to really kind of make the connection more and more, and that we have to talk about it more and more, and it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Sometimes I feel like landlords, or they say, oh no, that doesn't go on here. We have no violence going on here. Yes, you do. I am here to tell you, and the more units you have, it's happening, hands down. So it is in your best interest and your tenants' interest and everyone else involved to get your property Osso Safe certified. That way, it's more on the preventative side. You don't wait for the crap to hit the fan, so to speak. You do it right away. Residency, just for new and existing tenants. So I just wanted to reiterate a couple of points.
No problem. I do have an icebreaker question to kind of lighten up the mood. Not to say this conversation hasn't been enlightening, because it truly, truly has. My icebreaker question is, if you could have any superpower that's not flying, because many people pick flying because they miss traveling, what superpower would you pick? And it could even be a made up one to make it more interesting.
That you would, your existence, or there used to be a cartoon called Sophia the First. And I loved that cartoon. My niece, I would watch it with her, and Sophia would have an amulet. And if she was not acting correctly, she would lose her powers to talk to animals, and the animals would be able to talk to her. And she was able, there were other powers. So I wish my superpower, I would want that everyone had an amulet. I would have an amulet for everyone. And as soon as you even thought about abuse, it would stop you right in your tracks. It wouldn't even, instead of, if a parent was about to, you'd freeze verbally, physically, and sexually. So if I could have that superpower, just assign everyone an amulet, myself included, that it would, that it would just, even the thought, it wouldn't be there.
That is such a beautiful answer, and I never heard an answer quite like it. I always ask this question with my guests, and they answer it really differently. And I love how you implemented a childhood show, which my niece loves it as well, and then use that one little childhood like amulet and to utilize it in such an impactful way to help others, or to specifically to clarify, to prevent any violence for occurring. You just are frozen. And I truly, truly admire that. That should be a power. It should definitely be a power.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, from birth. from birth, or right when you get to be, I guess by kindergarten, that you just, because there's a lot of kids that suffer very early on and then they get violent. So yeah. No, that amulet's got to work right from birth. There you go. Yep. Yep.
Well, my power isn't as so awesome as yours. I would, for my power, even though it's kind of made up, which I guess the amulet is made up, but it would be so cool if it was actually physically real to have an amulet such as that. Would be to have the power of this particular podcast and any other podcasts, such as this one, to be able to be heard across other galaxies that have yet to be discovered. So
That's great. I like that. Very good. Very good. Very good. Yes. Limitless.
intergalactic broadcasting, just like this awesome conversation, it could be heard among millions of planets, because there are other life forms out there, even though many people don't think about it as much. But
No, I agree with you. Definitely. Oh, I agree with you. Yes. I bet they pass by and they're like, whoa, what's going on Earth? We need to pass by later. They need to work on a few things. Let's keep going. I bet. No, I agree with you. There are definitely.
Well, Sabrina, I would love to keep this incredible conversation going, but we're at the end of this really awesome episode. Did you want to tie in any social plugins for my audience, or where they could find your website before we wrap up here?
Sure. Thank you for letting me do that. My website is ossosafe.com. My direct email is sabrina@ossosafe.com. I'm on all the major social media platforms: Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Alignable, Instagram, and my TEDx talk is broadcast on the internet. And and on my website, there's a tab there to book, on how to book us for speaking engagements, seminars, workshops, for real estate, schools, and workplaces. So thank you for the opportunity again, Dion. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you. It was a true honor to have you on my podcast, truly.
From heart to heart.
Yes, absolutely. To all my listeners, stay healthy, stay safe. Speak up. Please don't silence your voices, because there's always someone out there to help you, whether it's myself or Miss Osso, my guest here. You don't have to go through anything alone. And until next time, bye.
Thank you.